You're listening to Sirva Soundbites, the official podcast of Sirva, the leading global relocation and moving services company. Are you ready? Let's get started with today's episode, Women Leading Global Mobility, a CHRO conversation from Asia to global.
Hi, welcome to Sirva Soundbites, where we aim to connect, inform, educate, and entertain our listeners. I'm your host, Girlie Velasquez, Director of Global Account Management at Sirva. In this episode, we will be exploring women leadership in global mobility. Our guest for today is Nidia Knight, who has lived and worked in 6 countries: Portugal, UAE, China, Australia, Germany, and Singapore. And she brings more than 20 years of global HR experience and ultimately rising to Chief Human Resource Officer of one of the world's most respected medical and security services company, International SOS. Welcome to Sirva Soundbites, Nidia. I'm delighted to have you.
Thank you for having me, Girlie. It's a pleasure.
Perfect. So let's start. Nidia, what is a moment from your early career that still shapes how you lead today? Share more about your foundational work ethics.
I started always, I've always worked since I was, 16. First was babysitting and while I was studying, and then it was working in the supermarket, stacking up shelves and so on. So I've always worked, and I, to be honest, truly enjoy working. Now I've always seen work as something that gives me something back, that I grow, not just in terms of salary and monetary, right? But something that gives me an opportunity every day to interact with people and learn from them and learn from experiences. Now, I've always been a person that I might have my job description. I'll have to, my work to do, but I've never been one to stick to that framework. So I'm someone who's high energy, very high curiosity, and I tend to go and get things sorted and solved. I tend to do my work, and then as soon as I get bored, I start doing other people's work. So it's like I'm constantly looking for something to do and to solve problems to solve. And therefore I've always, maybe that's the work ethic, I've always gone way and beyond, not to prove anything to anyone, but more for my curiosity, for my engagement, right? So I think that has created kind of that consistent, behavior and trust that I think it's through my early years and my career, I've always been very much appreciated for, but you never let me down, or you always go way and beyond, or I know that if you say something, you're going to do something. So I think it's that consistency of delivering and having a high capacity to deliver, to be honest.
Yeah. And it's your sense of ownership as well. Like what you've said, it's not about the scope in this one pager, but what can you actually bring into that organization? So like since you were below 20 years old, you're already working. So that's an organic progression showing that your value is very innate with you, knowing that the groundwork to be able to understand out of curiosity at first, but to appreciate maybe behind your curious mind, to appreciate the overall process and to see through sustainable and workable plans and solutions. And organically, without you knowing, you have now gone through to one of the top leadership roles in an organization. So, Nidia, you've lived and worked around the world. Take us through that journey. Which assignment or country stretched you the most, and which one energized you the most?
I think a lot of times people ask me, which country did you like the most? And I actually find it quite difficult to say because it's every time we've moved, and I moved with, in the beginning with my husband, and then with kids, we had one and then two, and then and then the third one and the pets. But every time that we moved, as we have been part of, it's different stage of my life, right, and our lives as family. So every move, that situation, that particular time, that location has brought something that if I then move to another location, it's not going to bring the same, because our life requirements, our needs, the kids' needs, my own needs are very different. So I always look back at it as a positive experience, even though sometimes things might not actually have gone right? But it was an experience, and an experience means that growth. And I look at, I really enjoyed that time there, and I really enjoyed that time somewhere else for some other reason. So it's not that I have a particular place where during that time, what did you really like? Now, for me, so I started in Singapore, right? So I moved to Singapore when I was 19. And I was 19, I was very young. I was with my husband. We just got married. And I was following him. He was a teacher, and we really didn't have that much money at all. So it was like moving in Singapore. I don't belong to that expat bracket of, having houses paid for and business class tickets and all that stuff. And at the same time, people of my age are the children of the expats, and I was already married, and, so I didn't really fit very well into that experience. I enjoyed the experience, but it was hard. And I didn't go back. So I'm originally from Portugal. We didn't go back for 2 years because we wanted those 2 years to really be the years where we would travel a lot in Asia. And that's the thing. We always moved to places where we wanted to travel around. So we used the 2 years to travel in Asia, and we didn't go home. We didn't go to Portugal. And then at the end of the 2 years, I was totally homesick. So for me, it's like, no, it's enough now. I want to go back. So then we went back to Portugal. So I found that the first experience in Singapore difficult. I mean, a little bit hard. And I didn't speak English either, which probably didn't help to my cause as well. And then we went to Portugal, and we realized that actually we spent 3.5 years in Portugal. In Portugal, my second daughter was born, Zoe. And then we kind of, after 3.5 years, are like, oh, I think this is getting boring, right? So we want, let's move somewhere else. And from there, we went to Dubai and so on. But every location has taught me something different. And now when I look back, each location has made sense for it to be in my way. So now that I was in, I just came to Dubai last week, but before I was in Singapore for 6 years, and we absolutely loved it. It's extremely difficult to move. And it was a totally different experience this time around, right? Being in Singapore in a different position, kind of in a different economic situation as well. So we experienced Singapore in a very, very different way. And so even though the same place, the circumstances are different, and how you experience it is different.
Exactly. Every landscape has its beauty, depending on how you actually see it. So what you did is all your years of experience gave you the right perspective, and you have always the right perspective. So nothing is ever lost, really. Each challenge, like what you have shared, is that each challenge, it is not a problem. It's not a failure. It's a challenge that fuel your next breakthrough when you move from country to country, from Singapore to Australia, Germany, UAE, back to Singapore, and now back to Dubai. So it's beautiful when you said that you always reflect that what happened in the past, when you reflect it now, it made sense. And few people, successful people, always share that, they embrace the change. In your case, you honored and allowed every chapter of all of those work experience, personal experience with you and your family, and that brought you growth and more curiosity. So that is very much admirable, and it's the resilience that brought you in. It's long years of trial and trying new things and discovering new things. So Nidia, we would like to know more, after your initial sharing. So based on your experience, and we are shifting now to the work that you recently handled, which organizational framework for those long years that you have seen, or support mechanism, which will most effectively enable women to step into a bigger role, and now into a profit and loss ownership or global leadership roles?
It took me so actually in terms of P&L and P&L ownership, it started many, many years ago for me, when I became the regional manager for a relocation company in the Middle East, right? It could have been, so I own this function, and it came with a P&L. I've never had P&L ownership before, right? And if you ask my husband, he's like, how do you manage that? Because he sometimes doesn't agree the way we manage it at home, But what I did was, okay, I had this, we're preparing for budget, and I, never had that before. So I actually connected with a friend of mine who was already a CCO. And of course, he had a lot of experience with budget. And I asked him for a weekend. And during that weekend, I asked him, give me the principles, give me the idea. And he taught me a lot. So that gave me confidence to actually be able to read it, right? Then you have, when you look at P&L, it could have been easy for me to just get my finance manager to review the P&L and tell me, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But no, I wanted to know every line item. I wanted to know how every line item of that P&L, where does it come from? What does it link to, right? So every month before we close, I used to okay, show me, salary and relators. Why is there a variance to the previous? So I just question, why is there a variance? Okay, the person explains. Okay, makes sense. So through that you learn. But I took it. It's like, it's mine. Yes, I have a finance manager, but I want that finance manager to empower me, to understand it so that I can be independent in that way. Right. And I can make my own mind and my own decisions. And sometimes, you find that there's items that maybe should have not been there. They were from another department that somehow, by mistake or whatever, gets into my department. So I was able to actually say, okay, this item is actually not mine, and speak to the other departments. So when people start noticing that actually I knew what I was talking about, and if I'm coming to your room to talk about this, don't just try to tell me something, because I've actually done my homework and I can tell you exactly. Again, is that consistency, right? That trust, that whenever people know that if I'm going to speak about something, I have, I'm not just going to say something for the sake of it. I actually have looked into it, and I can tell you how I worked it out.
Exactly. And you meant about, you went again to that understanding the basic, the principle, the whys of things, so that when people will try to challenge you or ask you questions in different angles, you understand the foundation, the principle of it. So
yeah,
you can relate immediately to what they wanted to achieve, right?
Yeah. So in terms of that, framework, right? So it's not like there was already a framework and I followed it. Is that I needed to learn something. I owned something that I didn't understand, and therefore I need to understand it to actually deliver on it. So I took that with me. I put work to learn it, right? And so that I could, this was maybe the framework that I myself put in. it's that curiosity of going back and learning about it. If I don't understand something, I don't just leave it. I actually research on it. I do courses online on it. I ask other people that are more experienced than me, can you help me? Can you coach me on this? And I ask for help for sure. And this is how I suppose it got me to where I am today in terms of finances as well.
Exactly. Wow. That's admirable. You're very open. You reach out to people. You ask. You are not worried to be challenged or to be questioned. That is good. The fluidity of your mind and curiosity makes a lot of difference for rising individual, like working people. And that's a value and ethics that we have to bring every single day, because the landscape right now is there's a new things. You don't even have to walk to learn things. You have to run just to cope with ever changing challenges and demand of our industry. Well, so let's move to the less obvious, Nidia, yet equally important aspect of moving. And what behaviors you had to unlearn moving from different countries and working with different people and culture?
I don't think it's unlearning, it's adjusting, right? Mm-hmm. So be very aware of the different setup, the different culture, right? So when I move, I try not to have the approach that I know it all, right? So if I move to a country, I move to a new team, I move to a new company, I go in and I try to understand, right? Mm-hmm. I sit back and ask probing questions rather than coming with, this is how it should be done, because everything's got a different way of being done depending on where you are and depending who you're doing it with, right? So for me, it's about not unlearning, but being mindful that whatever you have done in the past in a similar situation might not be done exactly the same way, even though you have the principles and you know how to do it. How you get there will change depending on who you're doing it with and where you are situated, right? So the technicality of it is the same, but how you get the buy-in, how you get people to adopt it, how you get people to trust you, that will be different depending on on where you are. So if I am new to an organization, people need to trust me. It's not just because they hired me and I had all this experience before, I come in and I say, it must be done this way. No, it's that when I come in, yes, I know how to get it done in terms of technicality. I know that those basics, but here, how do things get done? Who is the buy-in? Who are my stakeholders? And how do I get them to understand me and trust me? So that takes time.
Yes.
Right. And that it's patience and it is understanding the human behavior, that when people don't know you and people don't trust you, it's much harder to get them along with you. Right. So I love making changes and improving things. So when I go in a new location, I observe, I note down myself on my part, just like, why is this done this way here? But I don't start challenging it straight away. I try to understand it.
Exactly.
Did that answer the question?
Yes. And that's right now the mantra of most of the things that we see in social media, be it in LinkedIn or any social media platform, is assertiveness. Sometimes it borders to aggressiveness in, you have to make and design your own self, your own direction. But what I am hearing from you is there should be a creative balance, a harmony of trying to be with the people, that being with the people, understanding the team and going to their level in order to see through on how things are done, not just culturally, but also the way of that particular department, so that you will find the right mix and approach. And that helps you determine as well, Nidia, when to become firm, when to be firm in certain decisions that you have to make immediately, and what are those things that you can wait. Yes, I could wait for a couple of months to find out how to deal with it. Do you do that as well? Do you have that category or columns in your
I
mind?
mean, sometimes you have to make the decision, right? So if we're working on something and a decision needs to be made, and I'm very conscientious of having the team, I need to have the team buys in order for it to move forward and implement. No point of me just saying something, do it this way, because then people don't go with you. Right.
Mhm.
And things don't really get done that exactly how you would like them. So I'm very mindful of bringing the team with me. But then if we are in an impasse or the decision needs to be made, I will say, okay, I hear one said this, the other one said that, I said that. I believe this is the way, and therefore this time we're going this way. And I'll say, this is the way we're going. And once we go, we all go together.
Together. Yeah, that's interesting. Together. So
because if you're not together, then if there's always going to be someone that is not with you, is not in your bus, is going to disrupt the whole project or the whole work that you're doing, because there's someone that is not there pulling their weight, right? So it's important that we go all together and address when someone is not quite happy about, and listen to them. And if they're not quite happy with it, let's go back through it, but we're still going this way. Sometimes, I had to make decisions. This is how I'm going, and then just stick to it.
Yeah. Togetherness and sticking to it as a follower will give you a sense of peace, because at least someone is leading the way, or I could defer to someone like you to, to do a check and balance. And at the end of the day, if we win together. If we fail, we fail together. I mean, that's sometimes the fear of a team member in an organization, that I don't have a failure card, that if I fail, if I take risks with you, I might be left behind. So when you mention togetherness, it's something that we need to value and we need to hear in an organization over and over again. Thank you for that. So
thank you, Kat.
Obviously, wow, you juggled global responsibilities. You have your family. You're looking after your well-being while relocating. You're traveling with business trips, relocating yourself, doing all of those things. What sustains you? I'm very curious. What sustains you to create harmony in all of those things? Your well-being, your family, your finances, your career. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's not all easy. I mean, it is hard. It is hard. It is sometimes exhausting. So it's not just like all easy. I do work, really hard, and it sometimes it's very difficult. Now, I make sure that I'm a very positive person, so that probably kind of helps as well. I'm really resilient, and I am grateful, right? So for me, I look at, now I'm in Dubai, if I go out, I look at the sky and I look at the sun, it's like, wow, beautiful day, at the end of the day, I think about the day and I think what I'm grateful for. So I practice gratefulness, which I think that really helps, sustain it. But then I am very particular about my own well-being. I know that because of the demand of the job and because of the demand of, physical and emotional, like the travel, leaving friends behind and, moving homes and all that, I know that I can only do it if I protect my well-being to make it in a long term, right? So I'm very purposeful of, taking time for myself. I love doing my Pilates reformer, for example. Love going to spinning classes. So even if I'm traveling, I'll find a studio that's near, and I'll make sure I get to one. And that gives me, I think it's one of those places when I'm doing it that I have to think about the movements and the breathing and all that. It doesn't allow me to think work, right? So it's actually a relaxing thing for me. I love going out with friends, for example, right? Going out with my girlfriends and really being together with them and having a good laugh. I love that. So I make sure that I do that as well. But I am very mindful of I have to fuel to fuel myself in order to spend it and to give it, you know. And I'm very much protective. So yesterday I, booked my Pilates and I left work at 5, so I could be at Pilates at 6. And then I go home and I still have another call, but it's like, at least I made it to my Pilates.
Yes, yes. So you recognize your need, and you ask help. You go out with your girlfriends, make sure that your entire village is working. You have your community, because we have to admit it's a long haul run, and we need to cope with the ever changing responsibilities. And sometimes, I don't know if you feel that as well. I mean, some people would say, "Oh, I feel guilty if I have to spend money on the gym, or to attend these classes, or to eat outside." But if you actually looked at it, there's a time for leisure, there's a time for work, and there's a time for reflection and being grateful of all of these things that you are experiences. Because if you keep on jumping from one task to another, sometimes you don't understand already, or you do not feel like what you've said. You do not feel what were the blessings, what were the opportunities given you for that day, which may not come in tomorrow, right? So everyday gratefulness is the beautiful thing that you've mentioned, Nidia.
It's an investment in yourself, right? And
Exactly.
exercising doesn't have to cost money. I like to go to Pilates, right? But you can also go to the park and do Tai Chi, or you can do yoga
Yes.
in a park with a friend,
Yes.
or you could go for a run. That doesn't cost money. Now, the time, I think a lot of people, and I probably felt the same, it's like the giving that time, but I deserve that time, and this investment in the time to myself, it's what's going to sustain me in the long term.
Exactly.
Without that, I'll break down, right? And if I break down, then I won't move up, and I won't be curious, and I won't grow. So by having this, by allowing this investment in myself, sustains me in the long term for what comes next.
I agree. So this time, Nida, tell us what not to do, because every global leaders has missteps that taught them more than their successes. What's one tough moment you're willing to share, and how did you correct course?
So it's not what not to do, it's when to learn that you shouldn't be doing it. I think it's when realizing it that maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Because I don't really know what not to do, but I mean, for example, when I moved from Sydney to Germany, so at that time I was, one of the big four, and in Germany, they had won a big global account, and they asked me to move to Germany to set up that global account, right? I moved, I left my 2 older children in Australia. So my son was already at university. My daughter was finishing high school. So we left, and then my youngest one, when 2 cats at that time, my husband, we kind of moved to Germany, right? And we were open. For many years, apart from Portugal, I never really had worked in Europe before. And from the start that we learned in Germany, I can tell you, it was hard. Everything was hard for me. But I still kept going, for okay, I'm supposed to be here for 2 years. So, we started by, we stay in a nice place. Let's go and discover new things. And we went out and we enjoyed it. We found a house, rented a house, put the security deposit, bought a car. every time, but there was something that I'm like, do I really want to do this? But I said, no, I decided we're doing it. We're going ahead, so still went ahead, moved into the house, bought the car. My daughter was going to school. We didn't speak a word of German. And then everything was just hard. It was, if you didn't have a German speaker, you couldn't do, for example, utility setup, right? I had to get into the social security system to even go to a doctor. You can't just do it without. So I had no support on that. The rigid attitude as well of the work, is very rigid. And for me, it was extremely hard to adapt. So everything just became hard. Then my husband was, he was working for a university in Sydney, and he wanted to, try to work in Germany. But then he found that actually in Germany, if you work for a university of education, you kind of have to start from the bottom, and you kind of have to have the German. So pretty much we became very aware that you won't be able to really get into that line of work. And he was then offered a job in Abu Dhabi, where we had been before, and his previous employer offered him, a job. So we decided, okay, my husband will go to Abu Dhabi and my daughter and I will stay in Germany for the 2 years assignment. And we kept going. So this was like month 3 or something. We still kept going. And then I realized in Germany, where we were, the houses are rented without kitchens, like no cabinets. And I worked in mobility for like how many years, and I never realized this in some places, some countries, I think Northern Italy and Germany, where the rental property comes with no kitchen at all, So I had to go to IKEA, buy this kitchen, have the kitchen in the garage to be set. And then it became so difficult because at work was just a difficult situation. And I just started like, what am I doing here? Because life doesn't have to be easy in everything, right? But also when it's like a struggle after struggle after struggle, it's also not what it's supposed to be. It's not what it's meant to be, right? For me. So I realized, you know what? I have tried to push. I've said I'm committed. I've gone and do what I could do to make it feel that I'm committed, that I'm here, like set the house, buy the kitchen, buy the car, like felt like I'm staying. But something was just not sitting well with me. I was extremely stressed. My daughter was not enjoying school. I was finding the attitude at work extremely challenging, not set with who I was. And to be honest, one day I just said, you know what, that's it. It's not supposed to be this hard. And if it's this hard, it's because it's not supposed to be my way.
Yes.
And to be honest, I resigned. I lost a lot of money, but I sold the house and sold the car, lost the security deposit for the house, all that kind of stuff, right? But still, it doesn't matter. Got the cats back, and then decided to go and join my husband back in UAE. So we left everything and went back to Abu Dhabi. The lucky thing was that I didn't realize, and I didn't even think about it, was that we moved just before 6 months. So I was actually able to get all my tax payments back, which paid for everything that I had invested, so I was really lucky in that. I was really lucky. So there was a big, it was not a learning, it was actually to realize that maybe it's not meant to be, it's not my path, it's not supposed to be so hard, and then have the courage to just change and say, it's okay, it's not for me, you know what, I'll go somewhere else, no problem. And then it worked really well after that.
Yes. The courage, the bravery to say, this chapter has ended and I'm ready for a new beginning. That jump from one chapter to another will cripple you or propel you to the next adventure.
Yeah.
And you made it. You know when to cut loss, if you will, and when you are ready to start again. And if it happens, so it's not really a failure. Thank you for saying that. It's not actually a failure, but it's just another page that you have to start all over again. And that's life, right? You have to be nimble.
It's just a new experience,
It's just a new experience. Wow. And how far were you then in your career? Was that on your 10th year of working in the corporate world?
It was, yeah, about 10 years in. And so I think it was 2016 or 2014 actually. And this is when I moved back to Abu Dhabi. Then I joined another relocation company as regional director. And then from there, I was approached by Accenture. So it was my first, well, EY was my first in-role house, but I was doing client work for them. But Accenture was my first in-role, role, in-house role. And so, from there, things just kind of really moved forward, and I feel like really blessed. Worked for all the way from Australia, I'm still in touch with so many people and continue to see them whenever I travel, and they continue to be part of my life, even though I'm not in a location. And yeah.
Yes. Nothing is ever lost if you have that sense of curiosity, gratefulness that something is meant to happen because it will be useful or it will pave the way for your next adventure. Let's shift gear, Nidia. I have 5 short questions in our lightning round. 1 question, 1 answer. Are you ready?
Yes.
What should listeners change Monday morning?
Their mindset, and look back to their weekend and be ready for the next week.
Lovely. 1 book podcast you recommend to every new mobility leader?
Not just mobility leader, but to everyone, is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders. It's a book that, I've read many, many years ago, and a book that I keep going back to. And even when I'm in dispute with myself, I still go back there.
Yes, that book is phenomenal. It's applicable every stages of your career,
Everything.
every stages of your life. Yeah. Okay, a leadership value you changed your mind about in the last 2 years. Is there any?
You don't have to be rigid.
Nice. 1 habit that kept you grounded through your international moves or throughout the experience that you have in your life.
Gratefulness.
Who inspires you?
The better of myself.
Thank you. So thank you, Nidia, for sharing your journey, your honesty, and your leadership insights. Your story is very powerful reminder that global leadership is built in gratefulness, recognizing your blessing, trying to reflect. The moment that you stop, reflect, and wanting to become a better version of yourself. So every chapter, every challenge, and every reinvention, you honor it. And thank you for that. So to our listeners, thank you for joining on Sirva Soundbites. We hope today's conversation leaves you inspired and ready to shape your own global path. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share. For questions or comments, drop us a message at soundbites@sirva.com. Until next time, this is Girlie and Nidia. And remember, Sirva provides everything you need to move talent and deliver great experiences. See you soon.